Hey guys, so it's technically June 1st today, and by technically I mean 100% is most definitely June 1st today. But yesterday, on the 31st, I finished the second edit of It Starts With Goodbye, and I ended up with 44,149 words for the total, which is out of the original 43,986 words. I purposely did that edit so that way I wouldn't be adding any scenes, I wouldn't be removing any scenes, I was just fixing some sentences and some grammatical errors and replacing some words and so on and so forth. It's mostly a Grammarly edit, which this one is more involved than my normal Grammarly edit. Instead of just approving and or disapproving of the corrections that it makes, without actually reading through the entire chapter. I do read through the entire chapter, but most of the changes I make are Grammarly suggestions, and most of the changes that I don't make are incorrect Grammarly suggestions. It makes things go a little faster for me. It's still an edit, and it allows me to get through things a lot faster than I could if I was just reading it blankly without anything else in it. You do not have to do one of those edits, of course, if you're editing an actual book, but it helps me personally, especially when I'm working on something that I feel like I've already read and rewritten 100 times. So overall, the edit was pretty smooth. Like I said, I didn't add or delete any scenes. I strictly only worked on changing certain things. The next edit, I will presumably see if there are any scenes I need to add or delete. I would still like the book to be longer, but that totally depends on how it goes. At 44,000 words, it is technically a novel, just a very short one. Based on the actual definition of a novel, it becomes a novel at 40,000 words. Most people just refuse to accept that because they think that 40,000 words is basically nothing. And yes, if you're writing an epic fantasy novel or a fantasy novel or a young adult novel, yeah, 40,000 is typically not enough to be a novel, especially if you're being traditionally published. But if you're actually looking at the definition of a novel, and if you're writing a novel, 40,000 is technically the minimum word count. And anything past that is still a novel, no matter how high up you go. There's a breakdown before that that's a novella. There's a breakdown before that that is, I believe, a novelette or something like that. I've never seen it pronounced before, so I'm not 100% sure how to say it. And there's one before that that's a short story, and I think it's like 0 to 7,000 words is a short story. It becomes a novella at 17.5 thousand words, and then that to 40,000 is a novel. I'm not sure what the one in between short story and novella is for certain. But so far I am still happy with the book. Each time I read it, it's becoming a little easier to be, like, disassociated from the paranormal detective series, and it's easier to realize that these are not the terrible characters that I created in the original book 3. So the further I get into the editing process, the more I'm realizing that this write is definitely better, and the easier it is becoming to continue to edit. It does not change the fact that editing sucks a lot, but it is becoming easier to keep reading through the characters without totally hating it. Just because of how the characters turned out originally in the original book 3 and how the characters turned out in the Paranormal Detective series, which is something that I'm still technically rewriting, even though I hate every single second of it. But, you know, that is the life of someone who writes online as well as self-publishes. You don't have much of a choice, because no matter which way you do it, it's going to piss someone off. So, you know, I just deal with it at the moment. But after a couple days, I'm going to let this book sit for a couple days, and then I'm going to jump back into edit number 3. I think edit 3, I'm not 100% sure how I want to do it yet. I always change up the editing process. So, like, one time, edit number 1 might be where I put it through Google Translate, and edit number 2 might be when I put it through Grammarly, and edit 3 is when I read it on my own. And other times, those are totally switched up. It depends on the book, it depends on my mood, it depends on when I'm starting, it depends on how much time I have. I'm sorry for saying that so fast. Sometimes I forget where my brain's going. But I don't know 100% what I'm doing for Edit 3 yet. I have not, I believe, run it through Google Translate yet, so that might be my next step. Or my next step might be like I've done for one of my other books, where I will be taking notes while I'm reading the whole time to help lay out things. I feel like I need to add more detective scenes because technically the other two books are detective books, but this one is more romance, and it's always been more romance no matter what. So I feel like the balance between romance and detective isn't exactly equilibrium, but I feel like vamping up the detective to meet the romance creates a much longer book than the other two, and B, I feel like it throws off the feeling because the overarching plot all the way through the trilogy is these specific characters being alone or not finding what they need, and I don't want to say yearning for each other because they don't. They trust each other a lot, which is hard for both of them. And the overarching plot of the entire trilogy is them becoming closer together, and I don't know how to put it into words, is them coming closer together and loving each other as friends and family, and realizing that they work very, very well together, both because he understands her and she understands him, and they fit together very, very well. And that's the entire overarching plot arc of the whole trilogy, and it works that way. So I feel like setting up the book to be more detective driven as well would probably be a mistake in the long run. I'm not 100% sure. Now that I've finished the second edit, I'm actually going to be sending the copy to a reader and get their opinion on it to see if it's better than the original book 3, which I believe it is, but other people have different opinions for obvious reasons. So we will see, and after I get that feedback back, I will go back to editing and see what happens. So I think that's all I have to say on this particular subject. I will now be jumping into July Camp Nano Prep for most of the month. I will start, presumably, the third edit of this book before July, depending on when my reader gets back to me and all that fun jazz. I still have to send her the document and see what happens. But either way, I will keep you guys updated on all that fun jazz when it happens and when I start the next edit and so on and so forth. I do like to keep you guys updated. I do like to keep you guys updated on the process of everything, but sometimes it's difficult for me to sit down and actually make a video on the thing that I've done or the thing that I'm doing or whatever. But I do believe that's it, and again, I will keep you guys updated on the process on this. I just have to get second opinions first, and until an update comes out on this, I will be doing July Camp Nano Prep stuff. Anyway, I do believe that is all I have for you today, so thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, leave a like down below. All of my links to my social media, my author's website, my WATTPAD, all of that stuff is down in the description below. Thank you guys for watching, and I will